There are nights when silence weighs more than words, when the world sleeps but the heart cannot rest. Sheikh Hamdan sat beneath the quiet sky. The desert spread endlessly before him, yet within him was a storm. His lips did not move, but his eyes betrayed him. They glistened with a secret he could no longer contain, and when the first tear slipped down his cheek, it spoke louder than 1,000 poems. For tears do not ask permission, they rise from the soul when love is too heavy to carry alone. Each drop shimmered in the moonlight, like a jewel of sorrow, telling the story of longing, of devotion, of an ache that words could never fully express. He had hidden his heart behind verses, behind smiles, behind the grace of a prince, but the night knew the truth. The stars leaned closer, the wind hushed its breath, and the desert listened as his silent confession began. Every tear was a letter written without ink, a message from his soul to the heavens. He thought of her, her face, her voice, her absence that carved a hollow in his chest. He loved her not with fleeting desire, but with a devotion that endured time, silence, and distance. Yet he could not declare it. The world would never understand, and so his heart had remained captive. But no prison is strong enough to hold tears. They slipped through the cracks of restraint, falling gently, honestly, with a language all their own. Each one was a memory. The way her laughter once lit the air, the way her presence had become the rhythm of his existence, the way love had bloomed unexpectedly, yet eternally. He whispered nothing, but the tears spoke of longing, of nights spent awake, of prayers offered in secret. The moon bore witness, becoming a mirror of his aching truth. They say men of crowns should not weep, that strength is found in stillness, that rulers must hide their wounds. But love honors no titles, it humbles even kings. That night Sheikh Hamdan was not a prince, not a poet, not a figure admired by the world. He was simply a man in love, in pain, in silence. His tears did not weaken him, they revealed him. They showed the courage it takes to feel deeply, to hold on to a love so vast it overflows. And though he sat alone, the night was crowded, with stars, with memories, with the invisible presence of the one he longed for. Each tear became a bridge, carrying his unspoken words across the desert winds, across the stillness of the sky, toward her unseen heart. Perhaps she felt it, perhaps she stirred in her sleep, sensing his devotion. For true love, no matter how hidden, always finds a way to speak. He remembered the first time he saw her, the way the world stopped, the way recognition struck him like a truth already written in his soul. That memory returned now, sharper with each tear. He had not chosen to love her, love had chosen him, and with that choice came both light and burden. For how could he name her, claim her, when destiny kept them apart? And yet the love remained, as faithful as the stars. The tears carried that memory, pouring it back into the night as though he could relive it, as though each drop was a way to hold her again. There was no bitterness in him, only yearning, only reverence. Some loves are not meant to be possessed, but to be cherished, like sacred secrets. And so he cherished her, even from afar. The desert sands absorbed his tears, keeping them safe, turning sorrow into scripture, turning longing into eternal prayer. The night did not mock him, it honored him. The moon brightened, the stars leaned closer, the wind softened its howl, as if all of creation bowed to his confession. For the universe recognizes true love, even when hidden. His tears were not cries of despair, but offerings, each one lifted upward like a prayer. In them was a plea not for himself, but for her happiness. Even if she never knew the depth of his love, even if she lived without him, he wanted her joy. That was the purity of his devotion, unselfish, unwavering, eternal. It is rare for love to reach such a place, where sorrow becomes blessing, where longing becomes gift. And yet his tears revealed exactly that. They told a story not of loss, but of giving, of loving so deeply that he was willing to suffer silently, if it meant she could smile beneath the same moonlit sky. Morning would come, and with it the mask he had mastered. The world would see him strong, smiling, radiant as always. But the night would remember the truth, the tears, the silence, the unspoken love. He knew no one would ask, no one would guess. His sorrow would remain a secret, carried in his eyes, hidden behind duty, hidden behind poetry. But he no longer feared it, for tears once shed bring healing. They cleanse what silence poisons, they free what burdens the soul. And so, though the ache remained, he felt lighter, calmer. His love had been confessed, not to the world, not to her, but to the stars, to God, to the desert that had always been his witness. And in that confession, there was peace. He realized he did not need to be answered. It was enough that he had loved, enough that his heart had spoken its truth in silver tears. Still, the tears had carved something eternal. They would outlast him, outlast his crown, outlast time. For love this deep cannot be erased. It leaves traces in the air, echoes in the sand, whispers in the night wind. Those who would walk this desert long after him would feel it, without knowing why. A sudden ache, a quiet tenderness, a longing too vast to name. That was the legacy of his silent sorrow. He had not written it on paper, but in the fabric of the world itself. His devotion had become part of the land, part of the sky. And perhaps that was the truest poem he had ever given. For poetry is not only written with words, sometimes it is written with tears, with silence, with the heart's unshakable truth. And his truth was this: he loved her eternally, unconditionally, beyond time, beyond distance, beyond the limits of what could ever be spoken. As the night deepened, he lifted his gaze. His cheeks were wet, his heart bare, but his spirit unbroken. He knew he would rise with the dawn and carry on, but he also knew this night would remain carved within him forever. It was the night he had confessed without speaking, the night he had surrendered without words. And though she would never hear it, she was part of it, woven into every tear, every silent prayer. Somewhere, he hoped, her soul would feel it. For love has its own way of reaching across distances, its own language beyond sound. He closed his eyes and let the last tear fall, trusting that the desert would hold his secret, that the stars would keep it safe, that the universe itself would carry his devotion. And in that quiet surrender, he was free, not from love, but free within it, as though love itself had spoken for him. So remember his story, not of thrones or titles, but of tears. For tears are the strongest language of love. Sheikh Hamdan's sorrow was not weakness, it was strength too pure to hide. His silence was not emptiness, it was full of devotion. His tears were not shame, they were scripture, eternal verses, written in silver light. He loved quietly, he longed deeply, he carried the weight of destiny with grace. But in the end, it was his tears that revealed him. And in that revelation, he became truer than ever before, not just a prince, but a man, not just a poet, but a heart. And though the world may never know the full depth of his love, the night knows, the stars know, the desert knows. And so his story remains, whispered in silence, glowing in memory, shining in eternity. For silent tears once shed in truth do not vanish, they shine forever like stars in the endless sky.